Hello and welcome back to Notch Essential course. In this chapter we will talk about video exports. So in order to export video we have two options. Either we go to File, Export Video, or we press Ctrl-Shift-M shortcut. And here we are presented with quite a few options that we can set in for our video export. First of all, we can choose a container. I'm going to stick with QuickTime GPU. Then we can choose a codec. We do have quite a few options here. I would like to point out that we have our own codec called Notch LC, and I would strongly recommend you to give it a go. Notch LC is quickly becoming recognized for being one of the best GPU accelerated codecs out there in the market. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Notch LC, its technical properties and capabilities, please visit our YouTube channel and check NotchCon talk about Notch LC. One of our owners, Luke Malcolm, is giving a very good presentation on why we did it, how does it work, and what are the key benefits. Further down the line of tabs, we can specify duration or just match it to the project's duration. Then we can set a specific resolution that we're aiming for and frame rate. We can add motion blur and even specify blur's amount in percents. Now, if you're working with a path traced scene, rendering passes will probably be very useful for you. All of these settings can be set and stored as a preset. So I will close this tab for now and I'm going to open the render queue. If you have several videos that you want to render at once, we have a tool for that. So if you go to the View tab, you will find a render queue there. You can drag and drop all the videos to render queue, and once you're done setting up basic parameters of their render, make sure to hit render button. Now let's spend a moment talking about rendering stills. Perhaps you want to export this setting as a high quality still. You can do that by hitting Shift F8. Here you're prompted with table of contents that allows you to choose the width and height, an option to render alpha channel, and an option to use scene refinement and anti-aliasing settings should you be using path tracing scenes. Right, let's try this out. I'm going to render out a 4K still to my desktop. And there we go, we have a 4K resolution still of the setting we built. Let's render out this setting to a video. I'm going to press Ctrl-Shift-M to open the video export tab. I'm going to make sure that I've chosen Notch LC codec. I'm happy with the QuickTime GPU container. 30 seconds looks to be right, and I think I'm going to keep it in HD. Right, so with all these parameters checked and set, I'm ready to designate a location for this video, so that will be desktop, and I'm going to render. So as you see, it is rendering just as fast as it's playing back. Now obviously, depending on the load on your system or the scale of your setup, it might take a little bit longer. So now I'm going to navigate to my desktop, find the video, and I'm going to make sure to bring it here to Notch. And here we are. This is the very file we've just exported. Hello, in this chapter we will talk about exporting the standalone executable file. So here we have two layers. One is a 3D scene and one is video-based IMEG effect. And let's export this old design as a standalone application. So we can do that by going to Project, Compile Standalone Application, and let's define a location for it. So I'm going to make a new folder and call it Test. Okay, so now Notch is making a compilation of Notch engine and the design we created. When you're playing back your design in a standalone mode, you gain up to 20 to 30% of performance, because all of a sudden your GPU and Notch does not have to think about UI anymore, it's just your design and the engine. Let's navigate to this setting on the desktop. And there we go, we have several DLLs accompanying the actual exported executable. And here we have the very executable. I'm going to double click and enable it. Here we are prompted with a table of contents allowing us to choose what resolution should we be running, and if we want this setting in full screen or as a key and fill setting. I think I'm going to choose HD output. This patch now is asking for permission to use networking. I'm going to allow that. And here we are. We are playing back the design we've created as an executable. So we did end up having two layers. How do we switch between one and the other layer once we're in executable mode? Well, let's address that. I'm going to close off the executable. Back in the Notch UI, I'm going to go for Project, Settings, and I'm going to go for the Exported App tab. As you see, we have several options for us available here. So we can choose the executable icon, we can choose the loading screen, and we can enable the keyboard transport controls. All of a sudden, we will be able to switch the layers via keyboard arrow key up and arrow key down. But instead of that, I think I'm going to open the Web GUI and I'm going to change my layers in Web GUI. So Project, Settings, Web GUI enabled. I have a port set to 8.9.10. I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to re-export this design. I'm going to save and close this setting. Let's choose HD quality again. Here we are, file is loaded. Now I'm going to navigate to a web browser. In a web browser, I'm going to type in localhost. I could type in the specific IP of the machine I'm addressing, but in this case, localhost works fine. And here we have the port number that we set in that Notch in Notch. And now I can choose and switch between the layers that I have in my file. We have already spoken about opening parameters for Web GUI use in a modifiers chapter. But what if you want to make some small alterations or camera repositionings and you don't want to open those parameters? We have an option for that. I'm going to open this file again in Notch. So if you want to tweak or alter your design while your executable is running, you can always go for Devices, Network Connections, and connect to the very executable. Now I can make any and all alterations that I desire. And they're following through from builder to executable. The same approach works for media server export. Just a little word of note, once you're done making your alterations, don't forget to save, re-export, and overwrite the file. Hello and welcome back to the Notch Essential course. Let's talk about exports for media server use. Notch blocks can be used in quite a few media servers. As you see, the list is quite long and it's ever so expanding. In order to export your design to media server, all you have to do is go for Project, Compile Block for Media Server. And navigate to Bespoke location for Media Server to be able to grab your design. Now let's talk about opening parameters for Media Server use. For instance, what if we want to control brightness of this light in Media Server? All we have to do is press on the question mark available here on the left-hand side of the panel. Set a minimum and maximum value. In this case, our property is set from 0 to 2. It's always smart to set minimum and maximum value. Your media server operator will be very pleased with the fact that he knows what is the range that he should be using, because having a range from -1000 to 1000 is a little bit misleading. And now we can just expose the property, leave or change the naming convention, and hit OK. It comes as an exposed parameter in exposed parameters list, and you will be able to take over this parameter in media server.